Welcome back, everyone. Happy Tuesday to you. Nate the Barbarian with you, and always a pleasure to be with you. We got a great crew with us today. We got Michelle Dunn. How you doing, Michelle?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Michelle. We got Tarris Horton. How you doing, Tarris?
Doing well.
Hey.
Great to be here. Great to be here.
Good to hear you. We got Phil Heimlich, aka Sexy Phil. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm fine. I was a little disturbed because I heard like the viewership on last Friday's show was way down.
It
I'm trying to
was.
think. I'm trying to figure out why, why that might have been. I don't know, but hopefully we can, get it
Might have
back
been
up.
because we didn't do the show on Friday, Phil. That might be it.
Oh, really? Well, okay. Well,
Nathan, I know you was gonna hit him with that, but I just couldn't. I couldn't hold my water.
I told you guys, just because I'm not on it, you don't have the star power. That's true, but you don't have to cancel the show.
You're right. You did beat me to the punch. Kevin Aldridge, the voice of reason. How you doing, sir?
Good. Happy Tuesday. Good to see everybody.
Real quick, let's talk about the most important topic of the Cincinnati area, and that is, what do you think about the first game of Joe Flacco? Did the Bengals do the right thing?
I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. I'm
Happy with it? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Thumbs up for here.
Yeah.
What about which way do the thumbs go if you don't care?
You keep them in your holster.
I could suggest some places, Phil, but this is a family show.
Come on. Hey,
Where
come
the sun
on.
don't shine.
Hey, you're a pastor. I know, but don't forget that.
And what do you think, Kevin? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
I give Joe Flacco. I'll give him a solid B minus on the effort. He kind of started out a little bit slow. I mean, look, dude had like 2 or 3 days to get ready for the game. I think the first half was tough to watch, but I think when they came out at halftime, I thought he looked like I hoped he would look with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and the assortment of weapons they have on offense. Joe Flacco is still a competent quarterback with a good arm, and so he gives the Bengals a chance. I mean, a lot of people were predicting a couple touchdown defeat. If the defense could have stood a little bit more firm in the second half and got a stop, who knows? Maybe the Bengals get one more shot at the end of that game. Maybe they tie it up or take the lead. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. I can't disagree with you. Yeah, I think the Bengals did the right thing so far. We'll see. A little bit of housekeeping. So something's going on. This technology is far from perfect, but we're having some difficulty streaming straight to the Nathan the Barbarian page. So I know many people watch the show there, but we're also on Facebook on our Hot Mic podcast page as well. And I've already shared it to various pages, and so perhaps you can find us there. But I know a lot of people are still finding us through that page. But it kind of coincidentally works in the direction that I'd like it to, because starting January 2026, season 2 of the Hot Mic podcast, and when you're watching our live streams, they will exclusively be on the Hot Mic podcast. So if you can, go ahead and find us on Facebook and like and share us there, because come next year, yes, that's the only way you'll be able to find us on Facebook as we allow the show to grow.
Now, is it true that it's kind of like the Trump administration, certain panel members are going to be, how could you say let go? I just, want to be prepared, how these things work, I know what show business is like, you're a star one day, the next day you're forgotten.
You think we might have to Jimmy Kimmel somebody?
Exactly. Yeah. Possibly yours truly. That's what really scares me.
Yeah, you might be at the top of that list, but you know what? Yeah. We're not going to let that happen, Phil. Not that we have any power whatsoever.
Thank you.
We'll say a lot of good things for you in once you're disappeared. Trust me.
What?
But let's say hello to the audience. Pamela Kinney was in first. She writes, good afternoon. Patricia writes, good afternoon. Hey, Regina, good to see you. Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Crutha Keith, who I believe is a Pittsburgh Steeler fan. How dare you, Crutha? How dare you? But you're always solid in my book, and welcome. Nat's in the house. How you doing, Nat? Good Tuesday, Nate and crew. Jerome writes, hello, 513. Well, hello to you, Jerome. Dina is here. Hey, good to see you, Dina. And Pat, hey, good to see you, Pat. Always good to see everybody. Please like and share or tag people that you think might be into what we have to share with today. Let's get straight to the biggest local news within the last 24 hours. Multiple shootings, including a shooting that happened on downtown Fountain Square. This is a screenshot from a Facebook post from one of our friends in local media, and it is a quote from Police Chief Thigi. I'm not going to play the video, but she basically voiced her displeasure. She said it was unacceptable behavior. Apparently, it started with a verbal altercation, and it led to a shooting. There were actually police on the square when it happened. They were able to apprehend an individual, and I believe now 2 people are in custody. There were several other shootings throughout the county over the last 48 hours. But Police Chief Thigi went out of her way to say that it is unacceptable in general, but especially unacceptable on Fountain Square. What do you think about what she had to say? Some people are saying, well, wait a minute, what do you mean? Like, it should be unacceptable equally anywhere. Why are you trying to, focus on stuff that happens on Fountain Square? But in general, what do you think about it? I mean, the city council is doing their part, but yet this is still happening. What is the story here? What needs to happen in your opinion?
Well, I think it kind of gets back to what you said a few times on this show, Nathan, and I've said it many times too, that police are by and large, a reactionary element. Simply having police there is a good thing. And it does lead to what I've argued many times, that having police there and close by might not prevent things from happening, but it allows them to make arrests or apprehend, people who might be there quicker than having to do investigations or circle back around. But here's the thing that I think, you've got to recognize when it comes to crime, right? Like, criminals don't live by a code of ethics or the same contract with society that normal people live by. So to expect them to respect, the city center and the Fountain Square and things of that nature, I think, you're wasting your breath on that type of thing, because people who engage in this type of violence or the criminal activity that we're talking about, they don't subscribe to the same social contract that you and I and most of us on this podcast subscribe to. So to expect them to respect or listen to Chief Thigi's admonishment of this behavior is unacceptable and all of that, I get she's got to say that, but the criminal element and people who engage in this violence, they don't care anything about that. And they're going to go at and do what they got to do, whether the cops are around or not, in many cases. And that's the unfortunate thing that we're dealing with crime, is more police officers, as I've said, will lead to more arrests, but I don't necessarily know that you can 100% stop this. Now, if you look at the crime statistics, shootings are down overall across the city.
They're
absolutely
last
they
year
are.
they
Phil,
were,
Phil,
they're up
read
by
today.
8 in downtown.
Phil, read today's Cincinnati Enquirer, which we track along with police, the number of shootings that occur across the city every year.
Downtown. I'm talking about downtown.
Yeah, well, downtown shootings are on par with what they were.
No,
I think there were 18.
According to the Enquirer,
there were 18. Listen, let me finish, Phil. If you let me, go through this every show. If you just let me finish what I'm saying, I'll educate you here for a second.
All right.
It sounds like you read the article too. So shootings are up in downtown this year, but they're on par with where they were in 2023. 18 so far this year. There were 18 in 2023 in downtown.
What about 2024? That's last year.
Yeah, 2024 they were down.
I
think there were 10. I think there were 10 last year.
All right. Okay.
So yes, shootings in downtown are up, but overall across the city, shootings are on par to be at a record low in Cincinnati. So I think that's fair to say. I think we're at 222 shootings so far this year, with a few months left to go. And I think the previous record low, according to stats, since they've been tracking it, was 336. So there has been some progress. I think it's important to say that. Now, I always say 222 shootings is way too many. That's a lot of shootings. But if we're talking about comparatively whether things are better or worse, yes, they're worse in downtown compared to last year, but the city is on pace for a record low in number of shootings, even at the pace that we're on right now. So I think that's an important level set that you got to have to talk about.
I don't know why that's necessarily I mean, it's an election year. So, of course, the public safety and crime is the top issue of this cycle, it appears. And, just like Bowman in the mayoral debate basically said, you can talk to me about numbers and data all day, but it's the lived experience of people, feeling unsafe. And so it's kind of like the data, it just falls on deaf ears in a sense. Like, okay, well, the data shows this, but it doesn't really help, Kevin. It's like maybe the numbers are down or maybe they're not as bad, but I mean, it is what it is. It's in broad daylight. It's in a city center. And, I don't think the police chief's comments make a whole lot of difference either. My stance is that more policing is not the answer. More police funding is not the answer to community violence. We know what works, and it's usually deepening investment and resources in communities who lack basic resources to have a thriving life. I mean, happening is we are now opening basically an outdoor parking lot shelter for children and families living in their cars. The school district is going to host a parking lot for people, that we have the highest number of children and teenagers and families experiencing homelessness in this city. I mean, the desperation, right? A lot of this crime is involved probably in, illegal activity, drug sales, gun sales, right? And all of that is heightened when you don't have your basic needs met. I mean, so it's all connected. And, I'd love to see more conversation and debate about what we're going to do about those problems instead of just adding more police.
Whenever we're talking about statistics, in my opinion, I think they're very important because especially in the climate that we're in right now, I wrote this down, understand that the statistics keeps things in checks and balances because we're in a political season right now, a campaign season. Some people could take the stat or take any isolated incident similar to the Cincinnati brawl and try to politicize it, especially in times like this. So that's why I think that statistically having that data there is very important to track it from year to year. Because like Phil was quick to say, and Phil will probably say one's too many. I'm assuming he's going to say one is too many. But as long as we have the stats to prove it, it prevents town criers for whatever those town criers might have, what kind of soapbox they might be on, whether it's political soapbox, I don't feel safe downtown soapbox, white supremacy soapbox, black power soapbox, whatever town crier gives a platform, it gives a town crier. That's why I believe the statistics are very, very important.
Yeah, I agree with Tarris. You can't say the statistics don't matter.
Kevin, let's hear from Phil real quick. We haven't heard from Phil.
Okay, go ahead.
First, Kevin, it's clear to me you found a root causes ally in Michelle. Okay, I point that out. You two are of clearly one mind on the root causes. Yeah, shootings in the city, in the overall city, but guess what? Here's what's different about downtown. If there's a shooting in North Side, I mean, not that I minimize it, it's not as big a deal because people generally aren't coming to North Side to go to a show or a baseball game or something like that. But when you have incidents downtown like this, like that brawl, I'll tell you something, people outside the city, including in the suburbs in Hamilton County, which is important for the city because they come and spend money. I'm telling you something, they read that, and I'll bet you hundreds of people who just saw that story, they're not going to come downtown now. And each one of those stories is just keeping people from downtown. And I know Nathan will say, well, that's part of living in the city. If they don't like it, it's too bad. Well, here's the thing. When you have a incident like this one here, and you have one like the over the Rhine shoot, whatever happened, a couple of people were killed there. It is a strong deterrent in keeping people from downtown. Now, as far as the police thing, do we know, were there actual police when there was a crowd there, were there actual police there, or did they just respond to the shooting? Can anybody answer that?
I believe it's being reported that police were on the square.
They were. Okay. That didn't strike me that when I read the story, but if so, okay.
Well, here's my take on it. And I'm gonna come at it from a slightly different angle. And I can already tell that some people are not gonna like this, and some might think I'm out on a limb. But I want to propose a new rule for local media. Local media needs
Is this
to
the
stop.
billionaire rule? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you might dislike it just as much though. New rule for Cincinnati media. They need to stop reporting on each and every single crime. There needs to be a shift away from sensationalism, because that's what it feels like. It's like every day who got shot. And we need more solution-oriented reporting. We need more of that because, and I don't think that local media is doing this on purpose, but I think that they've gotten into a space where they're doing more harm than good with this constant reporting, this butcher's tally of who got shot every single day. And all it's doing is fueling fear and anxiety. On some levels, is desensitizing and normalizing violence. And it's distorting people's perception of crime. I mean, Kevin just said it. He just told you that the numbers are down, but people's perceptions are high. Why? Because of the media.
It's the perception of downtown. That's the issue.
Every single shooting, we got to hear about it. And it's like, okay, at some point, media has to ask themselves, are they a part of the solution or are they a part of the problem? And I think that they have shifted unwittingly, because there's a lot of good people working in the media. I don't think they're doing this intentionally, but I think unwittingly, they have now moved away from illuminating crime and now inflaming people's anxieties and
just
fear
reporting
about
it.
crime.
They're reporting it.
I'm just saying, that's what they'll say.
So you're saying don't report it.
But it's intent versus impact. I don't think this is what their intent is. But every single day we get the same thing.
Are you saying they shouldn't report shootings?
I'm saying, yeah, they might not. They might want to step away from reporting shootings because they have to ask themselves, are you doing more harm than good? I feel
kind of like what Pete Hegseth's doing at the
Let me get it all out. I feel like there is an ethical responsibility in the press to do no harm. And every day we're getting the same thing. Who got shot? Well, I think there should be a shift back to what Michelle was talking about. Connecting what the root causes are and focusing more on solutions rather than the sensational headline about somebody shooting. Here's my other point about it. We live in a stand your ground state. So we don't even know if this shooting was justified, right? It could be justified. That's the reason why state leadership have crafted gun policy the way that it is. Because if you might get into an altercation and you might have to defend yourself, we don't even know if this was a valid shooting. There's this rush, especially when we're talking about Black folks who are the perpetrators of it, to automatically assume that they did something wrong.
Do we even know the race? I didn't even know the race.
I know. I'm not saying we are. I'm just saying there's a rush to automatically assume that something was wrong. This is a stand your ground state. Maybe somebody was down there standing their ground. Maybe they had to use a weapon. I don't know. But the nonstop, constant reporting about it to this point,
if they stood their ground, wouldn't they have stayed there and not run off?
It's more detrimental than it is positive, in my opinion.
I disagree with you on that, Nathan, because one of the first things that you have to do, and I think people are going to look at this from whatever lens or perspective that they're going to want to bring to it. But the first objective of the media is to provide you with information that allows you to be free, safe, and self-governing. And letting people know about the level of danger that might exist in their neighborhood or any other part of the city is a part of that. You know, people will look at it as sensational because maybe where it appears, and I think that most shootings these days, unless it's a mass shooting or it's in a highly visible public place, don't even make it on the front page, right? I mean, it's like the old line from Boys in the Hood. They either don't know, don't show, or don't care about what goes on in the hood. So this notion that every shooting is magnified or is on the front page is just not accurate. It's just
absolutely
not true.
Accurate.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is not accurate.
Is accurate. Every time there's a shooting in Cincinnati, it leads its top headlines. There's a reason why the phrase "if it bleeds,
I guarantee you that's not true. There are 200. I would challenge you to find 222 stories about a shooting in the Cincinnati Enquirer or across or across different medias. And maybe this is a good public records thing, but I would
No.
challenge you to find that every one of those 222 shootings that have taken place so far this year have been covered by media.
They've been covered by media. That's why we know about them.
No,
You ever heard the phrase,
I guarantee
Kevin,
you
have
that
you ever heard the
there
phrase,
are some
if
of
it
those
bleeds,
shootings
it leads?
that
Have
never
you
made it,
ever
that
heard
never
that
made
phrase
it into
before?
the media. But that's neither here nor there. We're arguing about whether people have a right to know about what's going on.
No, we're arguing about whether the media
do no harm
is
principle
going
has
too far.
nothing to do with that. See,
Have you
it's
ever-
convenient. It's convenient. It's always
Are you
convenient.
going to answer
I
the
hate
question?
this. Let me finish. Let me get it out.
Go right
Nathan.
ahead.
It's always convenient to blame the media, to shoot the messenger for officials and community members' inability to affect the problem.
You're
This
deflecting.
is what we're talking about. This whole blaming the media thing is a crutch, is an excuse for elected leaders and community members' inability to affect the problem.
You want me-
The media
That
reporting
is
on
wrong.
what happens has zero to do with poverty.
you don't.
It has zero to do
It has
with
an
people
important role to play.
who go out and choose to do that. If you want to tell
Are
me,
you answering questions or
Nathan,
just
no,
making
wait. If you
statements?
want to
Can
tell
you
me
answer
that
the question,
people,
Kevin?
if you want to tell me that people in Cincinnati are shooting each other because they see it on the news every night, then you're part of the problem.
I never made that argument.
Part of the
I never
problem.
made the argument. Have you ever heard the phrase, if it bleeds, it leads, Kevin?
Mhm.
Of course.
I've heard that.
And-
I've heard that phrase.
Because it's true. Because it's true. If you
And it's true of every media source in the country.
and every
Yeah,
media source
come on,
is
Kevin.
wrong.
We're not that naive. Media is driven by bloodthirsty. We talk about this about
Media
our
is driven
schools.
by what people watch. I can
everything
tell
we
you
hear
that. I
about
can tell you that, Michelle.
is
So-
negative.
Let her get it out, Kevin. Let her get it out.
No,
Let her get it
I'll
out.
let her get it out. Then I'll make my point.
I'm just saying that the media certainly frames up what's going on in our community, and they focus on the negative. It is not a mystery. This is what gets, it's clickbait. I mean, they don't lead with the positive stories or the success stories, or it's a lot.
Why is that, Michelle? Why do you think that is?
Because it's a $1 billion industry. What?
No. You were about to say it, Michelle. You were about to say it, but you stopped yourself.
Because
Why is it
negativity
$1
sells.
billion industry, Michelle?
Because
It's
negativity
you
sells.
guys
We're
are,
business.
you guys are in a
No.
business.
Don't say you guys. Who are the
Negativity
customers?
sells.
Who
That's
are
why.
the customers? Who are the
Because-
customers? See, this is what you don't want to admit. Stephen A. Smith says it when he talks about what teams get covered on his show or whatever. It's what people watch. It's what people read. I hear people for 25 years. I've heard people say, why don't you put any good news in the paper? Or people don't want, you know why? When we put good news in the paper, people don't read it. You know what they read?
Exactly.
They read, you know what they
that's the
read?
point.
You know what they
That's
read,
the media.
Michelle? They
You're
read,
arguing
they
that.
read,
You're
they,
there for
they
clicks.
read the shooting
You're-
stuff. They read the
you're
car
selling
accidents.
product.
They read
You're trying to make a
the
profit.
train stuff. So they read the train crash. So is the problem really with the media, or is the problem with society and what they
Yeah.
want to hear
Well,
and what
you
they
guys
want
are
to read?
feeding into
Well,
it.
can I ju-
You're
let me
a
jump into-
for-profit entity. You're feeding
They're
I wanna-
responding to what the customer wants.
Yeah,
Ah,
that's
well,
what
that's
you're
what-
not absolved. You are not
That's what-
absolved from the
Yeah,
problem. You're
okay.
part of the
All right.
problem.
Like I said, it's
You
easy
just
to
kind of
blame.
made my
It's
argument
easy to
for me,
blame
but
the
let
messenger.
Tarris go. Go ahead,
That's,
Tarris.
that's, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's consumer responsibility. When's the consumer going to take responsibility too? Because the media is putting it out there, mass media is putting it out there. That goes to my argument of mainstream media is starting to be obsolete. So if you're going to get the same thing over and over, it's your responsibility as a consumer to go find other outlets to get your news from. If you're sick of hearing about shootings every single day and what's going on, and you're trying to block that out of your algorithm, find something else to consume, because there's so much more media out there instead of what this garbage that the mainstream media. I'm not going to say all of it's garbage, but the powerful three or whatever that are putting the mainstream media out there. They all saying the same thing because they're trying to drive our attention span a certain way. It's up to us as consumers to be more responsible in stuff that we consume.
I can understand where you're coming from, but back to Kevin for a second. Kevin, first you outright denied what I was saying, and then you made the argument for what I was saying. So it cannot be both. And again, I think there's a lot of good people. I don't think that local newsmakers and people that are in these newsrooms are sitting around like, yeah, let's feed and poison back into the community. I think it's a pattern that's driven by dollars they've gotten into. And I think that as we sit around and we analyze how to make a better Cincinnati, we should be talking about parents, we should be talking about politicians, and we also need to include the media and the role that they play as well. I wouldn't point fingers at just one person. I think if we're going to be fair about it, if we're going to be serious about it, we should be looking at all of it. And again, the more I look at it, it's like every day, who got shot, where they got shot. I'm like, come on now, there's got to be a better way to report even that kind of news in a way that can get us to a better place.
So what is it,
and so far, I just don't see it.
You tell me. In fact, you run. In fact, you have media platforms. What's the better way to do it?
Well, I started new rule for the next year. No more reporting on shootings.
So how does that help? How does that help solve the problem? This is what I'm saying. Like you're trying to put.
Do you want to hear the answer?
You're trying to put blame.
Would you like to hear the answer?
Except everybody else who is responsible for solving the problem.
I'm not really sure that's what I just said, Kevin, but go right ahead, though.
No, but that's what you're saying. You're suggesting that somehow or another, not reporting on shootings is going to fix the problem. As if the reporting on the shootings is the problem.
Yeah, on some levels, it is the problem. Yeah. See, on one way that it will fix the problem is that it will give the public a better and more accurate perception of what the crime problem really is, right? Instead of it just being pushed into your algorithm and into your nightly news every single night.
So not reporting it will give them a better understanding of it.
Not reporting it, at the very least, will give people a better understanding and a more proper perception of the crime that they're dealing with. There's a reason why. Can I finish?
That's the most ignorant thing I've heard.
Well, let me explain something to you then. Well, let me ask a question if you think that I'm wrong. So why is it that people's perception in Cincinnati about crime is so much higher than the actual statistics?
Who says
if it's
that?
not the media's reporting?
For exactly the thing that you said and what Tarris said. People are lazy. People don't want to take the time to go out and research.
That's not my question.
No, I'm answering your question.
Okay.
You asked me why people don't know. Because they're lazy.
That's not what I ask people. That's not what I said. Why is? Let me reiterate it because I want to make sure you answer
people
it.
aren't paying attention to the bigger picture because they're lazy. No, you guys are, delivering up the top line news stories. So it's just not fair to blame the public for not doing a little more to find out where are some of the.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? So what you're saying is the individual person has no responsibility to educate themselves beyond what they're showing on the news every night. That's what you're saying.
Experiment. Why don't we, for a week, instead of making the top line about violent crime in Cincinnati?
The top line is not. So first of all, I'm not going to let you do that. I can go and pull a whole week's worth of Cincinnati Enquirer's front pages, and we can count how many stories on the front page are about violence or how much.
We're not just talking about the Enquirer, though. We're talking about all local media.
We could do it across the media landscape.
But you can't do that, though. You can't.
The percentage of stories that are about violence versus stories that are about something else.
Yeah, you would most certainly lose that bet because there's been a lot of studies done
I'll
about
take it 7 days a week and twice on Sunday.
And you'll lose 7 days a week and twice on Sunday.
Let's do it.
Been a multitude of
put
studies.
the money on the table. Y'all put your money on the table right now.
I know I'm safe for my bet.
Yeah. There's been a multitude of studies. There's been a multitude of documentaries going back 2 or 3 decades that have done a lot of research on this. There's most certainly a connection between what the media reports.
That's not what you just said.
That's exactly what I just said. That's exactly what I just said.
Percentage of stories. We're talking about
there is a direct connection between. You can't have it both ways, though. You can't say that the media is powerful, but then when you call the media out, it's not the media, it's the people. The media sets the table for a lot of people in terms of what their perception is.
Billionaires buy media outlets.
Exactly.
That's how you influence people's thoughts on everything. You know, I mean, that's why billionaires buy media. I mean, that's exactly why. This is why Elon Musk bought Twitter. I mean, why else would he buy that? He wanted to influence elections, and he did.
Exactly.
I
It's the
mean-
reason why Trumpsters are buying TikTok. Why? Because TikTok is the #1 digital source for media. They want to control it. So you can't have it both ways.
So are you
The media
talking
most
about
certainly
news or
plays
media? Are you
a
talking about
huge
news or
role
media? Because
in,
they're two different things.
setting. Can I finish, Kevin? The media plays a huge role.
Are you talking about
in
news
setting,
or media?
I'm talking about local media right now.
Are you talking about news or media? Because
I'm talking about local news and media. So if you want to just call it local news, we can call it that. The local news sets the table for how a lot of people perceive what's going on in the city. And at the top of that level is crime. So what I would suggest is, as I started, I would suggest we spend, I don't know, 6 months to a year, a moratorium on focusing on crime, making that the top headline. I don't need to know every time there's a shooting. I think they should move to more solution-oriented reporting. And I think we might see a better response from the public. Because again, how is it that crime is down statistically, but people's perception about how crime is high? It's the media.
It's the politics. It's not the media. It's the politics.
The politics.
Because the media is reporting the statistics to you.
Explain
and
it
to
to me.
Tarris's point, the politicians are doing what politicians do, which is distorting perception.
And how do they do that?
The media is giving you the right information. As I always say this, people don't recognize the bias and the politics they bring to what they read. They always want to talk about what they read as being biased and so forth and so on. But they don't recognize that when they come to any piece of media that they consume, they're bringing everything in their experience, their biases, their opinions to
Kevin,
that. Wait a minute. So it's how somebody can look at me and say, Kevin, you in the bag for Corey Bowman. And then people on the other side come to me and say, Kevin Aldridge, you in the bag for Aftab Puraval. So which is it? Who am I in the bag for? It all depends on how you gonna look at what I say.
That's true, but a different
I just brought up the Cincinnati Enquirer on my phone, right? The app. I just put in Enquirer. The first thing pops up, gun shooting on Fountain Square.
Okay, that's news from last night. That's the biggest story in the city. That's the biggest story in the city.
The biggest story. Why is it the biggest story?
Exactly. That's the point. Why is that the biggest story?
Yeah.
All these success stories, all these things happening. But a shooting in which nobody is killed is the biggest story. That's the point.
Y'all are tripping.
Here's the second line.
Y'all are ridiculous.
Oh, I'm definitely not tripping.
This is the type of ridiculous.
Hold on, Kevin.
Yeah, why we don't get the results that we need to get.
This is WCPO.
Because rather than address the real problems, you guys want to blame the media and everybody else. Not the people who you elect to solve your problems and make your city safe, not the people who are hired to protect and serve the city. But you want to blame the media for the crime problem.
No, I'm just saying that the media. No, sir. Let me explain.
And Nathan, you have a tendency. You always say this about me, but
keep it real. You're right.
You have a tendency to take these conversations in directions that don't actually move us toward what you're proposing, which is solutions.
You are entitled to your opinion, Kevin.
It ain't going to do nothing to impact shootings in Cincinnati.
But to further prove you wrong, here is WCPO today, above the fold. Look, what it is, shooting, 2 shootings. Again, there's a connection there, and I can understand your unwillingness or your uncomfortableness to deal with this. But as I said earlier, as we try to make a better Cincinnati, nobody, including the media, should be exempt from a full examination of their role in making us a better and safer Cincinnati. That's all I'm saying. Everybody should be examined. The politicians, the people, moms and dads, the school,
giving people information that might keep them safe.
Hold on, let me finish. The state
because
and the media. The media is not sacrosanct, sir. And they should be drawn into this conversation, and they should be fully examined like everybody else. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well, if you think not reporting on shootings is going to stop them in Cincinnati, you're delusional. You're delusional. You're delusional. What we need to be focused on is the people who are elected and who are hired to deal with it. That's what we need to be focusing on. And that needs to be the bulk of the conversation.
Nathan muted yourself. You muted yourself, Nathan. We can't hear you. Nathan's going off. We can't hear him.
We need a reprioritization of what the media focuses on. That's what we need. And I think that I would love to try that experiment to see if it yields better results. Because what we're doing now, the way the media is covering things right now, it ain't working. We can all agree on that. So why not try something different? The media.
Are you saying if they don't report shootings will go down?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if they don't report shootings, people's perception about being a victim of crime will go down. I'm saying that if we don't keep focusing on street level crimes and we focus on solutions, then people's perception of focusing on solutions will go up. That's what I'm saying. And I don't think anybody can argue against that.
Yeah, well, this reminds me of our president who, when in his first term, he was complaining about all the facts about people getting COVID. And he said, I told him, stop reporting the test results and the numbers will go down. Same thing.
I don't think Nathan's talking about that. I think that Nathan's saying if you switch how you're doing, if it's not breaking news, let's put it like if the feel good stories are maybe the last 2 minutes of the newscast. Let's put if I'm not mistaken, proposing to put the violent crime in the last 2 minutes of the. And if that's such a headline, it's a proposal. If that's such a headline, it's such a grabber, that'll keep people tuned into the news all the way to the end. And then
let me just say something.
Instead of having the dirt in the beginning.
I just want to apologize because the fact that Kevin, I just want to say the fact that I'm agreeing with you. I know this is going to hurt your reputation, and I just want to apologize for that. But I'm sorry. It's just the way it turned out.
As I've told you, Phil, a broken clock is right twice a day. So I've learned to accept that. Look, I'm not going to sit here and suggest that the media is blameless in anything, and that's not what I'm suggesting. But
it sounds like it.
It's because the nuance is sort of missing, and I think when you make blanket statements like the media needs to be more solutions oriented. The media is solutions oriented. I can't tell you the myriad of investigations and stories, and you guys are going to shake your head. You're the same people who will say, don't dismiss people's personal experiences when it comes to the reality of what they feel about crime. But you guys feel so comfortable dismissing 30 years of journalistic expertise where I can tell you that what I live day in and day out, what I've seen, not just the Inquirer, but other media organizations do, and you will shake that off with no problem. It's the hypocrisy that sometimes on this podcast just infuriates me.
Well, it's like
you say, let's listen to Joe Blow.
Let's hear Kevin.
Let's listen to Joe Blow because of their personal experience. Forget what the statistics say. Forget what the experts say. This person's personal experience matters. But when I bring expertise and personal experience, that can just be easily dismissed. As you tell me, Nathan, you can't have it both ways. You can't.
Well, yeah, I do say that. I'm not really sure that's what we're talking about.
I know
here.
you always say that whenever I make a point.
Yeah, this isn't personal.
It's never what we're talking about when I make a point.
Yeah, but see, now what you're trying to do now is you're getting away from the larger picture and you're trying to make it personal about you. This ain't about you.
No,
it's not about.
Saying, it's not about.
But let me finish though. I let you talk.
Let
me finish. I know, but I just want to finish what I'm saying. This is not personal. This is not about your personal viewpoint. This is about a larger. Of course it is.
It's about all of That's what we're doing. Are we not all offering our personal viewpoints?
No, I mean, not
why are we
really.
even doing this podcast if it ain't
I'm giving my personal opinion. But what I'm saying is, no one is trying to challenge your personal experience as a journalist. I mean, I value it. I also think that sometimes it's almost kind of like, a parent with their child that does something, and the parent is just so in love with the child they can't really see it all because that's their baby. I kind of feel like that's kind of where you're kind of at when it comes to these media conversations. Yeah, but like I said, all I'm saying is that there can be a better way. And while we're looking at we're looking at police, we're rethinking and reimagining police and how they do what they do. We're criticizing politicians and asking them to think outside the box. We're asking CPS to think outside the box. We're asking everybody to think outside the box except for media. It's time for the media to say, you know what? Is there a better way for us to approach these ongoing stories about crime? Because I'll be honest with you, at this point, it just feels like all they're doing is amplifying trauma. They're just amplifying trauma.
Let me, Kevin, nobody is trying to discredit you at all because we respect your journalism and your journalism expertise. I look forward to getting your voice of reason on all these programs. But I think what Nathan's trying to say is find a different way. And then when we start talking about these things, it's kind of inevitable for you not to come at it from a journalistic lens because this is what you've been doing for so long. And so if we start talking about on this programming, barbering and cutting hair, it would be inevitable for me to take my expertise and put it in there, even if my old school way was, if I said, no, we're going to be cutting hair with corded clippers. We're going to them clippers with the detachable cords and the batteries. No, man, that's old school. That's new school way. We ain't doing that no more. We're saying but it's more efficient to have wireless clippers. You can take them better places. You can get better haircuts from that kind of stuff. But that's all we're saying. We're not trying to take away, me personally, I'm not trying to take away anything your journalistic expertise. It's just there's a different and better way to do it moving forward. And when I try to push it and say, hey, mainstream media is on its way out, let's find a different way to do it. That's where I see that your passion comes in and we get a kickback and we get anecdotal, experienced commentary from you. And it's great, but it's just anecdotal.
We need more.
Let me just say this. If you look at what the primary goal of media is, which is, again, to provide information, news that allows people to live healthy, safe, and informed lives, okay? No one would ever suggest, and we're talking about violence and shootings here. So imagine this scenario, okay? If we don't report on violence and crime that's happening in different neighborhoods and you don't know about it, and let's just say you go tripping into a certain neighborhood that happens to be particularly dangerous. But because we decided that for the health of the community, it's not healthy for us to report on this. So people stumble up into bad situations where they shouldn't be in because they count on their local news to keep them informed. Are we being responsible, right? Are we doing our best to keep them from harm because we're saying, you know what? Because we don't want to report on all these shootings every night. We're not going to give people a heads up that this particular part of town or this particular area might be dangerous. You might want to have your head on a swivel. We would never suggest that if severe weather is coming, that we don't want to panic people or give them a false perception about how safe they are by not informing them about dangerous weather that's coming. Crime is the same way. People have a right to know. It's not about if it bleeds, it leads. It's about your safety. This is the conversation that we're having. It's unfortunate that some people will take that, politicize it, and do it for whatever it is. The case I keep trying to make is the news is the news. What happens is what we're obligated to report so that people can be informed and make good decisions. If somebody don't want to come downtown because there have been 18 shootings, that is their right to make that decision based on the information that they have. It don't matter that you feel like it's safe. They have the right to make that decision based on the information that is reported. And that is what we're here to do, not make people feel good, right? We're not, that's the mistake that people make about the media.
So you're saying that the media
job is not to be PR for the city. It's not to be PR for anybody. It's to report information without, without any kind of bias or quarter or anything like that. And I'm not saying that some people don't go outside of that. But when you're looking at what the main job of media is, it is to inform and report. Our primary concern, the do no harm, is a tenet of what we have as journalists, but you have to weigh that up against the public's right to know.
Right.
The public's right to know trumps everything, except for in a case of like national security, right? You might see a media say, hey, we're not going to report on this because it's a matter of national security. There's a larger interest than the public's right to know this information in this case. But those situations are few and far between, and certainly don't apply to what you're talking about, Nate. That's my point.
I think that's a terrible point. Absolutely terrible. I mean, basically,
well, I mean, you can say it is what it is.
Here's what I just heard, Kevin.
What I just heard was
what I just heard is the local media's job is to tell you which neighborhoods not to go to.
No, it is not to tell you. No, I didn't say that.
That's essentially what you said.
I said is to give you information about what's going on in those neighborhoods.
You said
you take that information.
That's what I heard.
If you take, I know that's what I heard, but I'm asking you to listen to what I said.
I heard what you said, Kevin, and that is what I took from it. I heard what you said. I was very quiet because I wanted to get it in, and that's what it was. Just a terrible, in my opinion.
It all sounds really great, but it ignores legacies of decades and a whole history of bias in the media, usually against, people of color, immigrants, poor people. I mean, it's a very Pollyannish, view of maybe the role of media, but it's totally distorted. That is just not how it works. I mean, it's a for-profit enterprise. It's completely biased. It chooses to focus what it focuses on to draw in more clicks. And that's just the truth. I mean, to say that we are, why is PBS been defunded by the Trump White House? Right? I mean, there's
because they claim PBS is biased. That's exactly why they've been defunded. That's exactly why they've been.
Do you think that?
Because PBS has been biased, but you don't see PBS as biased, right?
Look, there's a choice every day on what you focus on.
Do you see PBS as biased, Kevin?
I don't see I don't see a lot of media. I shouldn't say a lot. Look, you said it yourself, Nathan, and this is what I always say. Think about people who work in your local media. People in Cincinnati know most of us. We ain't hiding nowhere. You can't say, oh, I think Kevin Aldridge is a good, fair journalist, or I think, Curtis Fuller is a good, fair journalist, and a whole bunch of these other people that you run into around the city, but then say that media is corrupt. So if you're saying media in Cincinnati is corrupt and biased, then you're saying all of us are.
I don't remember anybody using the word corrupt. Who used that word?
I'm just biased, unfair, whatever you want to say.
There's a corrupt and biased is two different things. Unfair, corrupt, those are
Nathan, this is why I make it personal. It's easy when you talk about politicians do the same thing when they talk about certain constituencies. It's easy when you talk about the media as this thing to try to assign these certain things to it. But then when you start talking about individual people, that don't apply to them. So it's kind of like white people who come up and say, "Oh, you're not one of those black people,"
so
right? It's like that same thing. I want to
focus on, if you said to your editorial board, "I only want to publish positive stories for the next 3 weeks because I have a bet with the Hot Mic crew that we're going to have a change in perception in public safety. We're going to do a pre and a post survey, and the bet is that if I only publish positive stories about Cincinnati and safety, that we're going to shift some perceptions." And so that's what I want to do. Do you think they're going to let you do that? Absolutely
Hell no,
not.
nor should they, because that's not journalism. Nor should they. That's not journalism.
So
our job is to reflect the reality of what goes on in Cincinnati.
The reality is most people
not
feel
just
safe.
the sunny side
there's a lot of good things going on, and you're not reporting that reality.
That's not true. That's absolutely not true. That's absolutely not true.
Here's what I would say.
Are most people walking around afraid to get shot in the head every day in this city? No, they're not. They're working. They're going to school. They're doing things. There's all kinds of arts.
So where have you read a story in the Inquirer that says most people are walking around in the city afraid to get shot in the head? Where have you read that headline, Michelle? See, this is where I stop you guys and you get mad because I won't let you say outrageous things that are just not true.
You're saying outrageous things by saying that all the time.
You make these outlandish, over-the-top statements that are just not accurate.
I said, why don't you publish feel-good stories that are positive? You said because that's not the reality.
We do publish plenty of feel-good stories that are positive. You know why you don't remember them, Michelle? Because you probably don't read them.
I think
like a lot of other people.
3 pages of the Cincinnati Enquirer. Actually, I have a subscription. I read, and because you guys have
you have a subscription. You have a subscription, Michelle. Do you read every story that we publish? Do you read every
I
story
can
we
do
publish
that in
every day?
probably half an hour because you don't have a whole lot in there. And
I'm just
on
asking.
your
It's a
side.
simple question. Do you read every story we publish every day? It's a simple yes or no.
Not
But
every
is that
story.
really the
I
standard,
read
though,
the
Kevin?
headline.
Okay, I don't. I know you don't. I was just gonna wait and see if you were gonna be honest, because you don't.
I
And
like
most
the
people
editorial
don't.
section. I don't read the sport because I don't really care about it.
So
I
then, if
read-
you don't read everything, how can you say what we don't publish?
I'm talking about the
You
top
can't.
line, the
You
focus.
can't.
We showed
You
you on
can't.
the phone.
Yeah.
I love you guys because
stories.
you helped me make my point. I just wish you would be
No.
honest and say it. I don't read everything you publish, so I can't say what you do and what you
No,
don't publish because
that's
I
not
don't
it,
read everything.
Kevin.
That
Yeah,
would
I'm
be
not
a
really
disrespect.
sure that's the
The
point, Kevin.
focus of your news. The focus of your news is the crime. That's what we started the conversation with.
Yeah, that was
and
my
what Nathan
observation.
is suggesting is let's shift to focus
That's
on
not
something more
journalism.
positive.
That's not journalism. Journalism is
It
not.
should be.
said it?
That
Who
should
is
be
it?
journalism, though.
Who
If
are
it's
you
not
to say it's
journalism,
not
that should be
journalism?
journalism.
Well, then
Who
start
made
your
you
own
think-
newspaper and publish nothing but start
I
your
have my own
own
podcast.
publication and
That's why
publish nothing
Nathan
but
does this.
positive
There's a lot of
stories.
people creating their own content because they're
Great for
unhappy.
them.
Well,
With
I'm doing it
I
now.
love it.
I'm doing it now. So
And then whenever we do that, they diminish us and minimize us, like we don't say anything. Like that's what the mainstream media does. I've been talking about that on this podcast ever since I've been on there. TikTok and the micro influencers have a bigger audience than most mainstream medias. That's why, like, Phil is really quiet, but I think Phil sparked all this because we all agreed, and then Phil was like, "Oh, we're unsafe from the media article," and that's why I think that we got to this part.
No, it's not from the media. It's from what's reported by the media.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, that's you're the prime example of why I believe Nathan's saying what he's saying, but I still back up Kevin. So, like,
Phil
I don't agree with
misquoted the story. The whole thing. I had to correct Phil. Phil started out by saying, "Oh, it's dangerous," and I broke him down with the statistics that were reported in the inquiry.
I said downtown.
And
I
then
was
what did
talking
he say?
about downtown,
Downtown.
not the city as a whole.
Right. So
Case
what
closed.
did he do?
Phil feels
He
unsafe
distorted.
because of your
What did he do to try
reporting.
to make his political point? He distorted factual reporting. The Inquirer never said that. He piecemealed a stat out of that story that he wanted to politicize to make his point, which is my point.
And that's what Phil and his people
give
do.
you the full context of the fullness of that story. He wanted to make his point.
I don't know how I
That's
became the
what
bad guy in
politicians
this.
and
That's what I
people do.
can't figure
It's
out.
all Phil's fault. It's all Phil's fault.
Exactly.
But
It's all
I want to
Phil.
make this point
Phil
again
Lewis.
that
Yeah, exactly.
we also,
same old.
again, we live in a stand your ground state where some people have the right to open carry,
Come on,
some
Nathan,
people
you're
have the
saying
right to
that-
concealed
that-
carry.
You're saying that
And-
somebody might have shot.
Well, let me
somebody at
finish, and I'll tell you what I'm saying, Phil. Let me finish. You can actually, I know I'm wrong. I know that off the top. So let me get it out. You can tell me how wrong I am.
Good. Now we're in agreement.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just don't understand the mentality behind it. Like, we live in a stand your ground state where lawmakers have said, look, it's dangerous out there. So dangerous that you might find yourself in a situation where you might have to use a weapon to preserve your life. And then when we see instances, we automatically assume that it was the wrong thing for people to do. Like, which is it? Is it okay to stand your ground because there's people out there that are dangerous and you might have to protect yourself? Why is it always, I'm talking about more Fiji here, and maybe she's got more information. But from what I'm getting, there was an altercation and then somebody pulled a weapon. Well, I don't know what was said in the altercation. Maybe
But they
somebody
probably
threatened
don't know
somebody's
either
life.
at this point. They're eventually going to have to get the full investigation.
But I'm saying, why assume then that something? But my point is this, Phil. My point is, why is she assuming? My point, Phil, is this. My point is, since we live in a stand your ground state where you have the right to stand your ground, why is it that almost every time that there's an instance where somebody uses a gun, we automatically assume that they were wrong to do so? Maybe they were simply standing their ground. We live in Ohio. This is what lawmakers want.
For white people. That's for white people. I mean, that's what that's for. That's what stand your ground is for. It's only for white people. That's what that's about.
So you're saying if somebody is attacking a black person, I forget what the rule is, in their home or whatever the hell it is, you're saying it doesn't help them in that situation. Or they have to be white to be helped by stand your ground.
Overwhelmingly is what she's saying, Phil. Overwhelmingly, not just in isolated instances. She's saying overwhelmingly, if the white majority has gun owners or white majority gun owners, white majority, there's a less number of black people with registered guns in America than white people with guns registered in America. So therefore, those lawmakers, those lobbyists, they're going to make laws that benefit those people who have the most of the guns. Most guns that black, I'm not going to say all, but a lot of the guns, that's why. So Phil, back to you and root causes. We'll go back to the root cause of this whole entire argument.
Now I'm the root cause. I'm the root cause.
Yeah, I'm going to circle it back to where I'm going to circle it back to where it is. We all had very logical and good things. We could have been off of this subject in 2 minutes. And then you jumped on and said you started with your white fear. The white fear. Oh yeah, downtown is not safe. There's been all these shootings and all that stuff. And Kevin had to check you and say, because you tried to skew the statistics.
No, my point was about downtown.
So therefore, so this is just from my perspective, and you started spitting off false facts that you and your buddies, when you sit around drinking coffee at McDonald's in the morning, after you read the paper, you street these false facts to each other.
I don't even go to McDonald's. I don't do fast food. Where the hell you get this?
I'm paraphrasing.
I eat McDonald's. I'm
stereotyping you. I'm stereotyping your type. Your type that while we had this conversation, because you took those words, that headline, and you ran off with it.
No, I read the story. It said there were 18 shootings downtown so far, which is 8 more than last year.
And then you had to be corrected by a journalist.
No,
and then that's where it went. And then
that's was talking about city as a whole. I was talking about downtown.
Okay.
Let's move on, guys. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Downtown is because people come there and gather there. They don't gather in other places to see a Reds game or anything. Crime downtown is a bigger issue than anywhere else because everybody comes.
I disagree with that completely.
It shouldn't be. Crime should be a concern no matter where you live, and it should be a priority for getting back to my main point about where this really lies at, which is at the feet of the people who we elect to handle these problems for us, which is every neighborhood matters, because every tax-paying citizen and homeowner or renter, if you live in Cincinnati, you deserve to live in a safe neighborhood. And I get why, the emphasis is on downtown for all of the reasons that Phil says, which are true, but it doesn't mean that it's any more significant or that it should be treated with any more of a sense of urgency because it's downtown than in any other part of the city.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Let's move on. Let's talk about, we had a big night last Thursday. And we had 2 of our very own who were there. Look at Kevin looking good, bro. Moderating the debate. That was nice. And Tarris Horton was there as well. I was so happy to hear you guys linked up, and Tarris provided some of the mood. He helped to set the mood there during the debate. But Kevin, listen, people have talked about us a few days old. Tell us what's not been said. Is there anything that's not been said or not been shared from your vantage point?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's been a lot of commentary, that I think is, kind of been spot on. I think that, AFTAB came out, I thought, pretty aggressive in trying to, make the case that Bowman was unqualified to be mayor. And I think he tried to take every opportunity, to remind people of his connection to quote unquote MAGA, and to also try to show that, hey, this guy does not have a grasp of the facts. He's not been taking this campaign seriously, and he tried to put that forth. I think Bowman on the other end sort of not tried to embrace the fact that he didn't master the facts, but I think he tried to embrace the fact that he wasn't a politician like AFTAB, that he wasn't the polished, slick, soundbite politician that AFTAB was. He's a guy who is who owns a business in the West End and who talks to people who are experiencing, some of the violent crime. He talked about the support that he has from police that, no matter what you think about this vote of no confidence in AFTAB, whether it was a handful of, retired police officers or whatever that made that vote. I think Bowman really tried to embrace the fact that, hey, I've got the support of law enforcement. I'm going to let them do their jobs, where AFTAB and this administration haven't. So I think it's just a matter of who you think, and again, this is just going to be very biased in terms of who you side with. If you think AFTAB's done a bad job, you like Corey Bowman. If you think AFTAB's done a good job, then you feel like AFTAB exposed him, which I think he did.
I'd say you can still be dissatisfied with the mayor, AFTAB, and still vote for him because we don't want a Mayor Bowman. So I don't think it's either or. I mean, there's certainly significant dissatisfaction in the current mayor, but yet a vote for a MAGA mayor for our city would is not something that most people would want to see around here. So it's not like it's a big confidence for AFTAB. I'll say that for myself for sure, and I know many people agree. But to have a white Christian nationalist MAGA type figure to take that position is a direct threat to most of the folks that live in the city and the values that we hold. But that does not excuse our critique of AFTAB and what he's been doing in this city, and his, the lack of what he's been doing on many important issues. So I just had to put that in there.
Brother Jay just joined us. Brother Jay just joined us. Sorry, Kevin, can I get Brother Dre in? What's up, Brother Dre?
He was in the house at the debate.
Yes, he was. I saw the picture. I love seeing you guys together. I just put a big smile on me. Hey, Brother Dre, welcome.
What's happening? Can you hear me good? No feedback? We on point?
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Yes, sir. How's everybody doing? Good to see everybody. Good to see
I like the outfit, Dre. I like the outfit.
Hey, still got to represent Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Still got to represent.
I like that.
I
think that look could help me in a lot of respects.
If you think he's sharp today, you missed him at the debate, man. This man was cleaner than the Board of Health, man, at the debate the other day.
I don't want to get away from the debate. I want to make some really good points about how Cincinnati raised the bar. Like Kevin was just saying about Brother Dre's outfit. Everybody came looking nice when they got there. Like Kevin, I was allowed to set the mood and to curate the mood. Everybody came and was an atmosphere where everybody was able to talk and communicate with each other. This, like I've said about this race, the AFTAB Parabol, Corey Bowman race, this is the litmus test of what they're going to try to pull in 2026 as far as the midterm elections go, and as far as what they're going to do for 2028. In my opinion, we've been talking about this AFTAB since I'll just go back as far as May, where they had the primary, and there was a 13 or 17% voter turnout in Cincinnati, and they were like AFTAB won all that, but I was like, okay, Corey Bowman has a lane. I was like, all right, he has a lane, because I looked at the map and it was from the outside, east side, west side. He could have worked his way in the middle. Hyde Park happened. He could have went for the Hyde Park thing. The Sarah Herringer, when her husband was murdered by she became a victim of murder. He could have took that route. So I seen that Corey Bowman had legs. So then whenever the Cincinnati brawl happened and he went the route of white supremacy with his brother, and because he let his brother shoot off the mouth and write checks that he couldn't cash, because we all knew the truth was going to the truth was going to come out. So I'm making all that to say, now that Corey Bowman's out of gas, he ran a campaign that now this debate has exposed him. He wasn't ready. AFTAB played him like he cross-examined him like an attorney. At one point of the debate, AFTAB said, you might as well ask, you want me to answer the question because Corey's going to use the same answer that I used because you've been copying, people have been copying off me. He just zinged him so many times and he had no comeback. The only thing that I will say that about with Corey, I appreciate him for showing up, for showing up to the debate, bringing a crowd with him. He was very well represented at the crowd. All his people looked good. They had the part of the Christian Nationalist Party, and if it was anywhere else besides Cincinnati, that might have worked. But you are in engulfed, and I'm so thankful to be there. I was so happy to be there, involved in that, or not involved, but around that, because that's what America looks. Cincinnati, that debate that night at Xavier University is what America looks like. You have police officers, city councilmen, the mayor, somebody's vying for the mayor. That's good. Oh, you had the debate team from Xavier University there looking, learning. That's what America is all about. If you want to get to good old-fashioned politics, you get two people in there. And in my opinion, Corey, you just weren't ready. You don't have you lost your lane whenever the Cincinnati brawl happened, and you took the route of white supremacy and went with your brother and the narrative that your brother, and you drank the MAGA juice, and you thought that was going to get you through the election in a city where you got too many black voters. And I'll end with this: the tribe of Judah is a hard tribe to beat. And I'll pass to Brother Joe.
Well, I appreciate that, Brother Tarris. Once again, it was good seeing everybody, and we was all friends when it was over. That's the beautiful part about it, to be able to break bread, shake hands, and take pictures. The bottom line is that I felt that Aftab was extremely condescending. He deflected several things right back. Corey missed some important opportunities. Like, he should have slammed him home with the old FOP vote. And you can tell that Corey's inexperience with political debates is where Aftab showed up, and he did throw some frustrating blows at Corey. And you can see how Corey then, it's like, hey, Corey, you still want to be a pastor, but in this, you got to come with some punches. And Corey started to hold back on lanes that he could have just drove home. For instance, when Aftab, they brought up the question that I thought was on point about the beat downtown. And he said, well, if it happens again and all these things. And what's deep is Holly was sitting in the front row. And Corey knew Holly was there. And he should have just, said, Holly, stand up right now. Look at what has happened. These are the things that occurred. And he didn't capitalize on key moments that would have been able to say, let's battle with this circumstance. So at the end, I still think that Aftab deflected too many key points for me. He still was going around the block, up the lane, but he exposed the issues to where he drew Corey to bring out his brother. He drew the whole issue about Trump. And what do you feel about Trump? Well, it's the only problem I got is his hair. Trust me, I said, man, come on. You can't play these games when you have a community that's already on edge and all you talk about is, well, only problem I got is with his hair. There's several issues that you can bring out about Trump and still make your point that, hey, he's a nationalist. Trump is doing his thing, but we got issues in Cincinnati that need to be dealt with. And Aftab played the Trump card and brought his brother into it, and it kind of lost light of where he needed to go.
Yeah, that's excellent. I think you did an excellent job of kind of breaking that down, Dre, because even as I was sitting there moderating the event, a lot of the things that you brought up were things that I was thinking in my head as I'm watching this unfold. And, I'm thinking to myself that Bowman did himself a disservice by not participating in any debates or operations where he had opportunities where he had to show up with Aftab, maybe even on a smaller scale than what we had, that could have prepared him for last week's debate, because that was a big stage for him. And I'll just say this because it was something that Tarris said. You gave Bowman credit for showing up. I kind of felt like Bowman needed that. Like, Bowman needs he needs a big stage in order to speak to the people of Cincinnati and stand toe-to-toe with Aftab, who I'll give credit to is Aftab for showing up, because he's the incumbent. He could have taken the posture of, I don't even need to stand up here with this guy, right? He's unqualified. And there are a lot of politicians who would have taken that posture and said, you know what, I'm not even going to recognize and allow this man to be considered equal to me by standing on the same stage with him.
Not on that stage. Not on that stage, Kevin. Not Xavier.
Absolutely, campus. He could have. And I've seen
not on Xavier campus with the choir. He would have took too much fire if he would have missed that. He could have. Aftab would have made too much fire if he would have not showed up, because that was the largest debate in Corey Bowman's life. I agree with what you said. He should have took some more smaller debates until he stepped on that big stage. Going forward, there will be no bigger debate than that debate then. So I disagree with, if either of those would have not showed up to that debate right there, that would have really detrimented their campaign.
I just meant who needed it more. Bowman needed that stage more than AFTAB needed that stage. And it was a bigger stage for Bowman because he had more to gain from it than AFTAB had to lose by doing it. And I guess that was my only point. The other thing that kind of surprised me was there were a few moments, to what Dre brought up, to where AFTAB really kind of jabbed him and Corey had more time, or I would even turn to him and say, hey man, I know you want to respond to this. And like, he didn't really have anything. So that, so as somebody who's moderated these things, like when you give a candidate an opportunity to respond, they usually don't just say, well, we're going to go ahead to the next question, right? Like that doesn't happen. And he did that a couple times in the debate, and I found those kind of surprising.
Well, look, AFTAB is very fortunate to not have a true opponent in this race, because if there was a real opponent in this race, he would be in a lot more trouble, given a lot of different groups, a lot of different issues that he's not done well with. People are not happy with his performance. So this is a gimme, this is an easy ride for him. I was interested in your question, Kevin, to serving all 4 years. I leaned in to listen to the answer, because many people do not feel that AFTAB is going to stay 4. And in fact, I've heard privately that he said he's really not interested in the job much. He can't wait to get back to the private sector. And so I doubt he will stay 4 years. And from my perspective, good riddance. I'd love to see Jan Michelle Kearney move into that role. She's our vice mayor right now.
Michelle, quickly, just for those of us who aren't aware, what are the big gripes you have with AFTAB? I'm just curious.
Well,
the main things,
the main critiques have been, like what we've been talking about, public safety, crime and stuff. Neighborhood
issues. He's too serious about cracking down on crime. That's why you don't like him?
He's not serious about cracking down on crime. No.
Okay, what is it?
And
what is it?
Also, I mean, you look at the votes of, when you have whole swaths of collective bargaining units taking votes of no confidence, that's meaningful. We have fire, we have police, and what not a lot of people have talked about, the AFL-CIO did not endorse AFTAB in this election. I know it didn't gain a lot of news traction, but I'm a member of the AFL-CIO, and labor is not happy.
What were the reasons they didn't endorse, if you know?
The main reason was his stance on furthering the union, participation in projects in this city. We have an extremely low participation of
you mean project labor agreements?
Exactly. Yeah, which
which basically cuts it, just for whatever it's worth, cuts out all the non-union people and guarantees.
Phil, what it does is it gives people a good paying job and a pension and safety on the job. So you're not going to win with me on that issue, okay?
Yeah,
project
and they have
labor
to pay a
agreements
set
are
wage,
good.
but anyway, that's neither here nor there.
You want to give people crap pay and not have safe working conditions and not have good trained people
and
on
it's
construction
union
projects,
only, isn't it?
then yeah, you're going to pay them crap pay. But what we believe
it's union only, isn't it?
It's called training and apprenticeships and
I know.
fair contracts to make sure those people, wage theft is a raging problem in this city, a top issue that nobody's talking about, by the way. So there's lots of problems with AFTAB and labor, where for the first time in I don't know how many years, the AFL-CIO did not endorse a Democratic mayor in this race, okay? So there's a lot of problems there. And I would say his issue with neighborhoods and development, not just connected communities, but his whole, let's remember his tax abatement reform work, quote unquote, reform that he worked on, which was a joke. There was a massive movement to say property valuation and tax abatements and TIFs are a problem in the city. And we see now people's tax bills have skyrocketed. And it's directly connected to the TIF districts and tax abatements. Okay, it is. And what he did was he ignored the call for reform that came from a bipartisan, in fact, led by Christopher Smitherman in the property tax work group a few years back. There was a demand for reform, and his answer, him and Reggie Harris, was to simply give more incentives to poor neighborhoods and slightly lessen the caps to wealthier neighborhoods. It really hasn't shifted into any solution. And this is, now we have displacement, we have gentrification, we have people not being able to afford their property tax bills. And so now they say, oh, the city's going to give a grant to give people, you know, a little bit of relief on their property tax bill. Well, great, but too little, too late, right? So just in short, there's a long list of real failures. Here you have a 9-member, fully Democratic council, and yet you have made no real significant movement on issues important to many of the communities in this city: poor, affordable housing, people who care about that, marginalized groups. I mean, it's a lot of talking points, but it's no real movement. And so this is why the Democratic Party is going to be losing some seats on November 4th.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I want to ask a question too. Michelle just made some great points about the things that AFTAB did not do right. And these are things that a Corey Bowman candidacy or a campaign could have capitalized on. Now it's too late. Now I have a campaign song for Corey Bowman. It's "Remember the Time." Like Michael Jackson, remember the time that you ran for mayor. Get all the pictures you can, get all that kind of stuff, and bask in the of all that kind of stuff, because it's over. But if you anywhere else in this country, you think of any other city in this country that you could not be endorsed by the FOP, vote no confidence for the FOP, not getting endorsements by the union labor, like the labor union, not get endorsements by all these people that AFTAB is not being endorsed by, and he's still going to dog walk his candidate. And I'll tell you the reason why. Tribe of Judah. There's black voters in the city of Cincinnati, and this is a litmus test that the whole country is going to have to see. Black voters in Cincinnati vote, and they're going to see the black vote is going to take AFTAB over the top. He cannot be endorsed by the FOP. He cannot be endorsed by the union, but he will get the black vote, and the black vote's going to send him soaring over Corey Bowman by 25 points.
Well, I think that's always been the case for Democrats in the city of Cincinnati. Yeah, not just in Cincinnati, but nationally. You don't win. Democrats don't win without black votes. It's quite simple. That's not a new revelation. That's not anything that is game breaking. It's true what you said, Tarris, but it's not. I mean, that's par for the course. Democrats don't win without black support. Period. In Cincinnati, nationally, whatever. If they don't get large to oversized black turnout, they can't win. Quite simply because there just aren't enough white liberals to carry the Democratic Party to victory. They're just not. Most white people in America vote Republican. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. And Corey Bowman did not have, and I've been saying this for months. You know, we've been going back for months where I've said ever since the primary, 15,000 votes is a lot of votes to make up. That's how much he lost by in the primary. Even if you want to say that half the people who voted for AFTAB are disappointed with him, that don't mean that they're going to turn around and vote for a candidate who, as Michelle said, is associated with MAGA in Cincinnati. Even if I don't like AFTAB, I'm going to, I might wind up voting for him because he's the lesser of the two evils. Or at worst, I just won't vote at all. I'm not voting for Corey Bowman, right? There may be some that he gets, but not enough to make a 15,000 vote gap. I mean, this guy barely got over 1,000 votes in the primary. It's about math at the end of the day. And the math has not been in his favor from the beginning. Now, I think it would be difficult for any quote unquote MAGA candidate. And I don't know if that's how Corey defines himself in those terms. That was certainly the terms AFTAB tried to paint him in. But in a blue city, man, you're just not going to get a lot of support if you're a MAGA candidate, because as Michelle said, his values don't match the values of most people in this city, regardless of what you think about crime and safety.
That's right. As much as he wants to distance, he keeps saying, well, I'm not my brother or my half brother. I'm not. Every time I've heard him talk, which isn't a whole lot because he doesn't show up to most stuff, he always seems to slide in there. Oh, by the way, my brother's JD Vance. I mean, he brings it up, not other people.
In the beginning of his campaign too, he leaned on that, and I guarantee you, if this would have worked out different and the Cincinnati brawl wouldn't have happened, and he could have used his brother's influence as a positive way to influence his campaign, he definitely would have not be deflecting and denying him like Peter did Jesus. Oh, at that debate, he was like, oh, I'm nothing like my brother. I'm nothing like my brother. But in fact, the reason why he's running is because he said he went to the inauguration and he got high off the MAGA juice. And he's like, if he can do it, I can do it with no experience, with no, and he had a lane, but
listen, I just got to say about the property tax, because I see some of the comments that the mayor does not set property tax. But what the mayor does do is he does set how much you have to pay. He sets abatements and he sets TIFs, which are tax breaks. Okay, so council, now of course the mayor doesn't have a direct vote, but the mayor's council are the ones who vote on abatements, which means breaks, property tax breaks. So while the mayor might not set the tax level, he does set how much people can get a break from them, which influences the rest of people's property tax valuations and has a huge influence on whether we're paying higher property taxes or not. So what has happened is a lot of people who are on fixed incomes, seniors, people, they call them legacy families, families who've lived in these neighborhoods generation after generation, been homeowners, are now being priced out of their homes because all of a sudden their tax bill has tripled or quadrupled when in fact no real value has been added. And why is that? Because the surrounding new construction has skyrocketed in value because these developers are getting tax abatements. So that's how it impacts our neighborhoods, and you just can see it. Drive through Walnut Hills, drive through Madisonville, drive through Evanston. These are traditionally, neighborhoods that are mostly African-American homeowners, historically, and now they are whiter and way more expensive, and it's not done anything to close the gap for home ownership for Black families. And that's the result of these policies. He is directly responsible for that, and that's just the truth.
Let me echo something on that. And this is not what people don't know about. And Kevin, if you want to get together and I can show you proof, I would love to. When the Cincinnati Police Department received their raise, and everybody was going crazy over the 17% raise, I voted no on that raise because it was a time and a half raise, that everything was going to be a time and a half. And people looked at it as, oh, that's great. But actually what it did was handcuff the business owners to have to pay $45 an hour to end up paying anywhere from $75 to $85 an hour. And plus now the taxes that would go on the officers would go straight to the city. And so what they did as well, they came back and they said, whoops, we paid the officers too much money. And they paid an over of $600,000 and took the money back. Now, you trying to tell me that if you got a competent organization with the mayor and with the city manager, and they said clearly we overpaid the police $600,000 to play with the money, then took it back, and now they're putting more money out here. It's too many ifs in this whole process. And as a police officer on patrol, I've seen these housing, the way it goes up. I've seen these areas change, and it's all been under AvTab's leadership.
All right.
Hey, Brother Dre, real quick, because I know you kind of came in late on this. I'm just curious because I was going to ask you this offline, and if you can do this in like 2 or 3 minutes, answer this question, so then we can move on to our final subject, because I am curious about your perspective, being a former police officer. With the shootings and the situations, we spent a lot of time early talking about that. What is your what is your fix? Like, what do you think what needs to happen to positively or reduce the number of shootings that we see? What's not happening that needs to happen? Is because it doesn't seem like it's as simple as more police, because police were present and they were shooting anyway. What's the solution in your opinion?
Okay, more police isn't the answer. I always tell people, from my sports lovers, back in the day, you had Kobe and Shaq, but you had the wrong coach. It took Phil Jackson to implement the proper system to win more championships, and they realized, hey, this guy already had a lot of rings with Michael Jordan. So the bottom line is, number one, you got to get rid of the chief. She has to go. She has to go. Her leadership is ridiculous. And people get nervous at this OSP coming in. What the OSP will do is alleviate the pressure on the CPD. Let OSP, who specialize in traffic, let them do the traffic. Let them make those stops. And then you can implement police officers in certain areas in block by block. And number three, you got to make arrests, because most of it's been a proven statistic that most people are repeat offenders. They go out here, shoot people, and they get out and they actually shoot people again. So most time you hear unsolved crimes, guess what? It's usually because the other person had gotten street justice and somebody else had killed them. So we have to be more consistent. If you're going to add the police, is structure them correctly, because all the stuff that they've been doing has not been working, and criminals are taking advantage of the situation, because you never seen open shootings at 8 o'clock right there on the square on a consistent basis.
Hey, the only thing I would say to push back on, and you tell me your thoughts about it, when you said OSP, that's the Ohio State Patrol, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So if we give traffic to OSP, will they still have to adhere to the collaborative? Because that's what caused so many problems back in the past. It was these traffic stops and these interaction between Black Cincinnatians and Cincinnati police. And I think we all can agree, maybe you can or not, that the collaborative has been successful in keeping everybody safer. If we give it over to OSP, doesn't that take us backwards?
Well, I wouldn't say it take us backwards, but then there has to be a clause somewhere in the collaborative that if any outside agency come in, they still have to adhere to the collaborative. So if you're making a lot of traffic stops and you're profiling, they should also fill out a contact card, which we were doing, to make sure how many Blacks are being pulled over versus whites. Are you pulling somebody over because they got big rims? Do they got dark tint? So OSP should still have to follow the rules of engagement to fill out the proper forms to see if they are profiling individuals. That way, it will still keep everything within order, that they are making the liable arrest in the process.
But is it fair to say that that's easier said than done? Because again, I don't know, I'm not there, but I think, isn't it more than just saying you're going to follow the collaborative? Doesn't it take a sort of like training and a certain mentality from the beginning of your training to make sure that you're in line with the spirit and the tenets of the collaborative? Would it be that easy just to say, hey, OSP, follow the collaborative? And these guys have never been exposed to it before?
And this is why you got to have the right people in place to make sure they're trained. So if they come down here, OSP, let's say you take them through a vigorous course of the collaborative agreement, the process that they would have to follow, and to make sure it's in place. And then you have individuals that as soon as they make multiple arrests or traffic stops, that are looking at these arrests to make sure they are following. I believe if you put the right people in place and you're dealing with constant training and you're making sure these officers comply, I believe it will be a success. But we can't have you against them.
Oh, I had a question. But when he comes back, I got a question, because I want to go back to the debate. I want to go back to the debate because the collaborative agreement was a big part of the debate. Because Corey Bowman, he dropped the ball.
It came up, but I want to get to, we talked about, I want to move on to the next topic. We talked about it quite a bit. And I want to talk about Vivek. Something happened with Brother Dre. If he comes back on, of course, I'll put him back in. But Vivek was at a Turning Point event. And here, there's Brother Dre. Let's let him finish before we move on.
Yeah, because you can't have people just come into Cincinnati and they already have an idea and say, well, I hate Iris Rowley because she's behind a collaborative agreement. This is where it has to be, hey, Okay, she has a reputation for hating the police. There has to be a balance. You got to balance this thing out. You can't have a reputation where people are coming in town going, man, I'm not even about this collaborative because we know what it's about. It's about not arresting people. No, it's about unfair policing and discrimination, but it has to be a balance. So I believe if Iris would say she's not going to let it go, but give somebody else the reins to be able to instruct the collaborative agreement, get another face involved, and she kind of what I call be the CEO in the background to help make sure it gets in place. Because if officers sit at the table and already have a mindset it's not going to work, they're not going to buy into it. You got to get buy into, and everybody's going to have to make this work.
I will just say, I think this is Iris. She commented in the chat and said that there's already a memorandum of agreement with OSP that they have to adhere to the collaborative. She said they're the only city in Ohio that has that agreement with OSP. So I believe that's Iris. It says it's with Rochelle, so it could be. I guess it could be Jesse, but it's somebody from the Rowley family who brought that. I'm assuming it was Iris.
And I wanted to bring up a point about the debate. They were using the dog whistle. He was trying to dog whistle collaborative agreement. And just like Brother Dre mentioned that Corey Bowman could have capitalized because Holly was sitting in the front row. Corey Bowman could have, instead of dog whistling collaborative agreement, he could have said Iris Rowley's name because Iris Rowley was out in the crowd as well. But I don't think that he did it because he knew that would get backlash in the city. And I agree with what Brother Dre said about people getting trained.
I think it depends on how he says her name, but how he might have used her name. But let's move on. So Vivek Ramaswamy, some people say he is going to be the next governor of Ohio, running as a Republican. He has a whole bunch of endorsements, surprisingly, some from labor as well, early endorsements. But he was most recently at a Turning Point event, and boy, he took some real heat. He took some heat about his religion, and some people even said it might have been a little bit of racist as well. This is not the full clip, it's just a part of it, but I thought it was interesting. And I'm asking the question, does Vivek have a Christianity problem? Does he have a race problem? Check this out and we'll talk about it on the other side.
No other God. He is part of the Holy Trinity, and any other God, Jesus Christ is God, and there is no other God. He is part of the Holy Trinity, and any other God is a demon, and it's false. How can you represent the constituents of Ohio who are 64% Christian if you are not a part of that faith? If you are an Indian, a Hindu, coming from a different culture, different religion than those who founded this country, those who grew this country, built this country, made this country the beautiful thing that it is today, what are you conserving? You are bringing change. I'll be 100% honest with you. Christianity is the one truth.
Christian voices should be the main voice of America, and I want to know basically why you seem to be, and I don't mean to be horribly offensive, but why you seem to be masquerading as a Christian.
You familiar with the Ten Commandments?
You call yourself a Hindu, but you also call yourself Christian.
I don't call myself Christian. I call myself a Hindu. I'm not running to be pastor of Ohio. I'm running to be governor of Ohio, and I didn't run to be pastor of America. I ran to be president of the United States of America. What's your faith?
I'm a Christian. I'm a follower of Jesus.
Great. Do you believe in the Holy Trinity? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit?
I think a lot of people here do. So
good. And that doesn't make you a polytheist, does it?
Probably not, no.
Great. And so in my faith, I believe there's one true God. He resides in all of us, and he appears in different forms, but it's one true God. So I'm an ethical monotheist. That's the way I would describe my faith. Do you think it's inappropriate for someone who's a Hindu to be, say, a U.S. president?
No, I think it's... No, well...
You be honest.
Isn't Hinduism...
Because you're an Indian.
I can ask yourself that Hinduism believes in Shiva and what is it? The flute god. I forget.
Right, Krishna, who's you're thinking of?
Yeah, Krishna. But isn't Charlie Kirk's organization founded on Christian values as well? And isn't the United States of America also, based on what Protestantism is, based on how those values are? Wouldn't that contradict what your beliefs are?
Like I said, I'm not here to justify my faith to you any more than you are to me, but what I do share is the value set this country was founded on. And I think that it's really important that we not reinvent the founding of this country and what it was actually all about.
So there it is. I mean, they that was just the tip of the iceberg. He got some more heat that I just didn't have the time to play. I didn't put the mashup together. Whoever did it, props to them. I thought it was very timely. But what do you think? Does Vivek Ramaswamy have a Christian problem, a race problem? What do you think?
You know, I would almost feel sorry for him, Nathan, if Vivek Ramaswamy, as smart as he is, and he's already seen this, like he's admitted, if you go back and you do a search, he's admitted that what he's discovered is that the Republican Party is more racist than even he thought, right? He even admitted that at one point in time. If you go back, if you do enough searches of videos of interviews that he's done, and you didn't show the video, but there was one point when he was running for president that Ann Coulter told him on his own podcast to his face that she agreed with a lot of the policies that he had. In fact, she agreed with him more than she did with a lot of the Republican candidates, but she would never vote for him because he was an Indian. Okay.
Matter of fact, I got it real quick. Hold on. Let me pull it up.
Yeah.
Because it'll add to the conversation a little bit. Yeah, Ann Coulter is known for being brazen, so she didn't mix her words. She kept it real.
I'm a fan. I too am a fan of yours. I'm going to make a point of disagreeing with you so that it will be fun. You are so bright and articulate, and I guess I can call you articulate since you're not an American black. Can't say that about them. That's derogatory. And that was a great opening segment. Lots of things to talk about there. Oh, and I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president. But I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian.
Yeah,
she plays no games.
I love that because, and not saying that Ann Coulter is representative of, even the majority of Republican Party voters, but she represents a constituency there. And this is why I was a little bit surprised that Dave Yost bowed out as quickly as he did. Because when they first announced that they were going to be running in the Republican primary, this is exactly the problem that I said Vivek Ramaswamy was going to have, was exactly this. And he's lucky that because of the Trump endorsement, and I'm sure they probably told Dave Yost, even though this was supposed to be your opportunity to get the cheese tray, you've been in this for a long time, we're going to ask you to step aside because we don't want an ugly, messy Republican primary. I believe Dave Yost, if he'd hung in there and run the kind of campaign, like a winning campaign against Ramaswamy, he could have beaten him for governor. But this was Trump's appointed guy, right? This was the guy, whatever Trump told him after he made him leave Doge, we'll send you to Ohio, make you governor. And Yost, I think, played the good soldier, as all of these establishment Republicans always do, bend the knee. He stepped aside. But if he wanted to run a really tough, gritty primary against Ramaswamy, he would beat him exactly because of that video.
Would you have been? Are you suggesting he would have had to lean into that energy that we saw in the video?
Absolutely, and he would have. He would have if he wanted to run a winning campaign. Yeah, he would have been a fool not to lean into it. Because if there's one thing that we know plays well, it's the racism, it's the religious factor that plays well. That's a winning formula on that side of the aisle, and he would have been a fool to not run a winning campaign and not use that.
And so
the question is the racism going to trump the misogyny of that group?
For Amy Acton,
because we know how hard it is for women to win public office, especially at that level, and especially in Ohio. And Vivek is so terrible in ways. But
Michelle, do you think that Amy Acton should lean into that energy we just saw?
No, absolutely. That would be beneath her. She's a highly qualified, really strong candidate. She's been polling extremely well against Vivek, and it's not because he's Indian. It's ideas of what he wants to bring to Ohio. So I at first, after the Nan Wade loss, and so many others, I wasn't a true believer that we even had a shot, but the tide is certainly turning. And I love to see white Christian nationalists eat their own. You know, it brings me no more pleasure than that. So, you know, I want that whole side to not in our state. I believe in, right? We believe in democratic processes, public institutions. We believe in taxation and representation, and we believe in media and universities and public education. And even his promises are extremely extremist and dangerous, and it will push our state even worse after these long years under Republican supermajority control. So looking forward to getting back to the basics in Ohio with a strong Democratic governor, Amy Acton.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going
to answer that with your question you asked Michelle really quickly. Should she lean into it? I agree with Michelle. One, knowing what I know about Amy Acton, it's not within her. It would be beneath her and not within her personality to lean into that, to try to make politics. But then also she can't, because I believe she's also Jewish. So she would have a Christianity problem as well when you get right down to it. So she couldn't make the religious play because she's not a Christian either.
Understood.
When you're talking about Amy Acton and Vivek, when it comes down to that, if it's going to be a primary, like without the primary and a general election, the Republicans, the MAGAs, the white nationalist Christians, the white Christian nationalists, they're going to side with the Republican side over the Democrats when it comes down to that. So the approach, I think, would have been the best approach, like as Kevin said, is have Dave Yost or somebody challenge him. But even then, still, that's not enough. Because what you're seeing now and what you're going to see, like after this mayor race in 2025, we're going to move quickly to the midterms, and we're going to see a split in the Republican Party. The Republican Party is fractured very hard because look at Margie Taylor Greene and all these people who are coming out that used to be MAGA. They don't, the Matt Getz, all these people that used to be MAGA that are not MAGA anymore, and they are drifting away from that white nationalist Christian agenda. So them pressing on Vivek is just that, a press. And if you watch that entire, and I would challenge you guys to watch that entire, I think it's 40-minute debate, Vivek craftfully articulates himself and talks about how the beginning of our country was founded by Quakers who were leaving to gain religious freedom, and they had a melting pot of religious freedom people coming in the United States of America, and that's what he leaned into. And he said, and he leaned into that, and he made a very good point from that at that turning point event. This turning point event that he just showed the media from, that was a very, not a skewed, but that was a biased clip. If you watched all the rest of them, I watched it and I thought Vivek did a heck of a job defending himself.
Well, wait a minute, let me ask you this question.
I agree with you.
His faith, and then at the end, he brought it back around to say, "Hey, this is why I would be a great candidate for religion." And at the end, he had everybody from Turning Point eating out of his hands, clapping for him, and will vote for him.
But if I'm racist and I don't like brown people, why am I going to vote for Vivek? I'm going to vote for the white woman because I'm racist, and I don't want some foreigner who is
He's going to vote for the Republican anyway. They're going to vote for the Republicans because the white nationalist party is the white nationalist party is a party of white people, and they're going to vote Republican in that aspect. That's just from my perspective. If white nationalists are going to look at a Democrat, especially in Ohio, the Acton, they're going to look and they're like, for one, I'm just going to vote for the Republicans. That's a Republican thing to do because that's what God is telling me to do. Because they're going to somehow going to.
They're going to vote for him because Trump told them to. They're going to vote for him because Trump told them to. It's going to be that simple. They're going to vote for him because Trump told them to, because Amy Acton still has, and people haven't forgot about the COVID baggage. She's carrying that. That's not easily shaken off here.
And she's a Democrat.
She's a Democrat. Phil and Andre in. Hey, Phil, what do you think?
Yeah. I definitely think the anger, or whatever you want to call it, was not based on race. It was based on the religion thing. And just take a look at Tim Scott, or who's the guy, Donald from Florida. I mean, Byron. Byron. Yeah. I mean, these MAGA people, that's all they care about at this point. In some way, you could give them a little credit for that. But, this guy, in a way, I agree with Michelle about them eating their own. I think what is always troubled me is the hypocrisy of how politicians want to wear that Christian label, the Jesus label, and yet when you look at their actions, whether it's Hegseth or any of these others, or Charlie Kirk for that matter, it's very hard to see how they are practicing what the Bible teaches. And that's the whole hypocrisy of the thing. For what it's worth, I headed up the Republicans for Tim Ryan campaign in 2022, and I know he was considering it. I happen to think Tim would be a much stronger candidate than Amy Acton because he isn't tied to the COVID thing. He's kind of known as kind of moderate kind of a guy. He ran a much stronger race against JD Vance than whoever ran against than the presidential race. And he's pretty popular in the northern part. I don't want to see a MAGA person in that role, and I just happen to think Tim Ryan would be a much better candidate than Amy Acton.
Dre, what do you think?
Well, yeah, Kevin can agree with this. The Bible states that many false prophets will arise. And there's going to be a lot of things that's going to happen through this political system. And as you see, Christian and things are popping up a lot more than what it used to be in the past. And so I'm going to tell you right now that the bottom line is Ramaswamy, he's going to win because Republicans are going to vote Republican. And he has enough what I call swag to flip the narrative that he's still going to get the votes that are necessary to win. But at the end of the day, when I talk about prophecy or you look at the Bible terms, you see a lot of stuff that is being used in the name of quote unquote Jesus. And just look what happened with the situation with Charlie Kirk. Now you have Ramaswamy. You just get a lot of things that are going to deal with the Bible. So I tell people, you better start reading for yourself and not just to believe what you hear.
So you agree with Tarris, like despite this pushback he got at the Turning Point event, Republicans are going to come out and vote for VVAC. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just almost the same way you're talking about all the issues with AFTAB. Democrats are going to vote for Democrats regardless of the circumstance.
That's a fair point.
He's going to get the vote.
Here's to Michelle's point, though. There is an opening. I still think it's not a great shot for Acton to win, but there's a chance for her to win if she can maximize and turn out Democratic voters, because there is the possibility that there's enough of this going on with Ramaswamy that he could lose some votes just enough to where if she maximizes her turnout, that there could be an opening. Again, I wouldn't put money on that because I do think Dre and Tarris are right. I think people are going to vote for Ramaswamy because, as I said, Trump told them to, as they a lot of these cases, maybe not the best candidate, which I think Ramaswamy is a smart guy. I think like JD Vance, smart guy, but just an opportunist. I think they're smart opportunists who are leaning in, who don't have a lot of moral courage or principle, really, just doing what they need to do to advance their careers. Ramaswamy sees this party for what it is, but he also sees it for what it can do for him. And JD Vance is the same way, and that's what they're doing.
Can I make a point about the white nationalists, though? They're going to do whatever their pastor tells them to do. All those guys that are in there in the Turning Point, and they're giving Vivek Ramaswamy the business. When they go to church and they sit underneath that parishioner, and that parishioner has said, "Oh, this divine, you got to do this. You got to vote for the right people." They're going to head to the polls, regardless of their beliefs. They're going to be good sheep to their shepherd for white nationalism and go vote for who they tell them to vote for.
Tarris, I just want to say you sound just like Jimmy Swaggart, so I congratulate you.
Hey, my grandmother used to listen to Jimmy Swaggart.
Mine too.
He said, I sinned against you.
This scares me now that I'm hearing this about you guys. There's a lot of things I've had trouble with. This really bothers me.
My grandmother would have cut you over Jimmy Swaggart. That was her man. That was her man. She
She was
I
saying.
have sinned. I have.
I come against you.
Phil,
Hey,
what
listen,
do you
everybody.
think? Phil, what do you think, Dave Yost, as a Yostian Republican, right? What do you?
I'm sorry, you're calling me a Yosti Republican?
Yeah, you guys are cut from the.
am
You
not.
guys are cut from the same.
Don't give me
You
that.
guys are
You're
cut from the
offended,
same slice of the Republican pie, man. You guys
I'm
are.
not a Yosti, but go ahead. What's your question?
So, what do you think he's sitting back thinking right now, like about stepping aside, looking at?
Well, look, the Trump endorsement, that's everything. I mean, as long as Swami Vivek has the Trump endorsement, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, look at what happened with Vance. You know what's interesting? Remember the primary where you had J.D. Vance, and who was the woman who was head of the Republican Party at the time who did that stupid thing in front of the wall? You know what I'm talking about? Ran against Vance, among other people.
Who is
I don't
this?
recall.
Well, anyway, I'll think of her name, but she did everything for Trump. Oh my gosh, she was Trumpian, and what he shoved her aside in a heartbeat. Now, I can't say for sure, but I'm quite sure Peter Thiel's money probably made the difference. Who knows how much he gave to what Trump Foundation or whatever, but suddenly Trump endorsed Vance, and that was it. So, Yost, I mean,
$15 million.
if Vivek has Trump's endorsement, nobody else has a chance in that primary.
Well, with that, everybody, I really appreciate
Peter
your time.
Thiel funded J.D. Vance.
Go ahead, Michelle.
I was just going to say, Peter Thiel funded J.D. Vance's Senate campaign in 2022. He spent money ever in a Senate campaign. He spent $15 million in Ohio for J.D. Vance to win that seat. And then he told Trump he wanted JD as his vice president. That's why we have JD Vance as our vice president. It's Peter Thiel.
And that could be, and that could be the biggest, that could be the best thing to ever happen to America. Is this transition?
Really? You don't want women to have
Hold
the right
on,
to
let
vote?
me finish. Let me finish, Michelle. Let me finish.
Please.
Come on, Phil Jr. Let me finish,
All
Phil
right.
Jr.
Now, don't you hold it. Do not insult that woman that way. That is absolutely insulting.
J.D. Vance could be the best thing to ever happen to American politics because he will not survive. He will not make it through. He feels like he's the heir apparent, just kind of like that. Corey Bowman thought that he would be able to slide through and get to the mayor just because he was drinking the MAGA juice. J.D. Vance thinks the same thing about the presidency. He thinks he's an automatic bid for 2028. That's why I said it'll be a good thing for America. Because if the Republican Party puts J.D. Vance up, the Democrats will beat them and change the course of power back away. Unless the Republican Party can bring a better candidate than J.D. Vance. Then we might have a race.
I'll tell you who the better candidate will be. It'll be Donald Trump. That's who the candidate will be.
I'm for that. I'm for that. I've been thinking about that. I'm for that. If Donald Trump could run for another term, I'd vote for that man. We'll do it.
Dear Lord.
God.
Dear Lord. That's a great way to end it.
That's a good spot to end on right there.
Yeah, on that note, let's go ahead and end. Oh, the coin, not the coin. Hold on, let me put you up there. The coin. Hold on, where's he at? What is this? Tarris, Donald Trump coin.
It's an authentic Donald Trump coin. There's only a certain amount of made, and I got number 4,690.
Did you pay money? Did you pay money for that, Tarris?
This is authentic. This is authentic
money for that thing?
Trump coin. At the next debate, we won't need to find no coin because we got one right here, baby. We just flip this coin.
He got the jail mug suit cloth. He got the Trump Bible, the gold shoes. Tarris got the whole collection over there.
When I pass this on to my kids, seriously, my dad I've got JFK ones of these and stuff like that. It's something that my family passes on and stuff. So when I pass this on to my kid and this gold plated is worth some money, y'all gonna be like,
hey, I'm not mad at you, bro. I'm gonna get me one too. Put in the collection. Hey, listen, everybody, I really appreciate your time. It's been a lot of fun. Went a little longer than I anticipated. To the audience, thank you so much. We're planning to be back on Friday, 1:15 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. Can you guys stay on, Brother Dre and Michelle? Just real quick, I want to add you to our promo.
Phil too.
Yeah. Oh, and Phil. Just real quick.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for your time. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and really appreciate you. We'll be back and better than ever on Friday.
No, I won't be. It won't be better than ever.
Exactly, because you won't be with us, but we'll be the best that we can be without you.